No, I don't think so. We blew fire in New Orleans one time and caught some girl's hair on fire.
Oh my God.
That was bad.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was The Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Before we start, if you want to support the podcast, you can go to my Patreon at patreon.com/thiswasthescene. You can sign up for $1 a month. You can also donate one time at thiswasthescene.com. At the top of the homepage is a purple button. Just click that and follow the instructions. Thank you to everyone who has donated through the years. You help keep this thing alive with all the bills and shit like that. So I really appreciate it. And if you would like to be appreciated as well, you can also donate to the podcast. The Gray AM was a punk band from Herndon, Pennsylvania, who released full lengths on Fiddler Records and One Day Savior Recordings. They also did splits with Mid Carson July, One Line Drawing, Ruined in a Day, and Juliana Theory. I actually did an interview with Bryon Lippincott about Mid Carson July, episode 127, if you want to go check that out after this one. And he talks about being best buds with these dudes, so I was like, fuck, I gotta get them on. So after some back and forth for a while, I finally got Todd and Murray on the Skype, and this is what we chat about. The goth scene, Murray creating his own tunings, stealing members from other local bands, playing at the first fest, using fire in their stage show, this is where it starts to get great, lighting bottle rockets off their guitars, vampire teeth merch, Fiddler Records, Ipecac, catching a girl's hair on fire, watching porn with the Locust, the crackhead story, shooting fireworks at bands, and a ton more. Lastly, I'll be at Fest in October if all things work out with this whole Delta thing, so if you have any way for me to get backstage at some shows, let me know by emailing thiswasthescene@gmail.com, or you can message me on my Instagram, which is thiswasthescene. All right, I'm just going to jump into it. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some punk rock nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. So I did a little homework. I typically just kind of jump into these, but I reached out to a few people who know you guys and asked them for some things to ask. So I got Bryon from Mid Carson July, Amy from Fiddler Records, and Rob from Saturday Supercade. Now, Rob, you might remember like a little bit. I just did an interview with him. He texts me this week and he's like, oh shit, I just listened to Bryon's interview and I forgot that I met those guys and the Gray M dudes in Pennsylvania. He like stayed with you guys or hung out with you. Do you remember this at all?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Rob was great. We actually, oh God, Saturday Supercade. Wasn't he the Texas kid? Was he Texas?
Yes. He.
Yeah. Rob.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lucy Love Schroeder was his band when he
Yeah.
moved to Texas.
Yeah, I totally remember that dude.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rob was going through a little bit of a goth phase at that point, I think.
Tell me about this.
Little gothy.
I don't remember him being gothy. He was like a rock and roll
Is that
like
what it was?
Like a greaser kind of guy.
Yeah. But it was still kind of like
he had that vibe.
Yeah, totally.
I think now he has a bit of a goth vibe because he's in a Texas band down there. They do like covers and stuff, and he's got like a bit of a goth rocker kind of
Nice
thing going on.
It's kind of weird that like that kind of happens in the older age, even though you're into it when you're younger.
Yeah.
Like Bryon and those guys have all like really, really gone deep in the goth stuff.
Wait, what?
Like Bryon and those guys like definitely like are at every goth show now around Tampa.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Those
interesting.
guys, I mean, I love this stuff. If there was a Kerosene 454 show or Giant's Chair, I'd be there.
I think you know that started from what was that club that we used to go to down there, Murr?
The Castle.
Yeah, that started by going to the Castle too fucking much.
Oh yeah.
What's it?
That place
Castle.
was goth as fuck.
Yeah, Castle's great, man.
I didn't even know there was a goth scene anymore. I mean, I guess there obviously would be. It's
There's
not my
tons in
face.
every city. You just don't look for it, so you don't see it. But there's a big goth scene in Denver.
Interesting. I guess it like just wasn't in my face anymore when I left high school 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
And it just didn't care to pay
What's your
attention.
background, Mike?
I grew up in Jersey, so I grew up in the Jersey scene.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I think I asked Brian. I think that our bands played a show or two. I was in this band called Meyer,
Oh,
yeah, we played with you.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I don't
think
remember where.
I think it was a house show, if I remember. It's been a long fucking time, but I think it was a house show.
Yeah, I don't. Was it in Jersey or was it around the country?
I think it was in Jersey, yeah.
A house show in Jersey.
New
remember playing with
Brunswick,
Dirt,
maybe.
We never played in any New Brunswick house shows with like any of the basement shows, which were the real famous or popular ones.
Okay, then maybe it was somewhere else. But I definitely remember. I remember you guys.
Yeah, I just want to say I remember, and because I think I said it to Bryon too, and out of all these interviews, I'll like bring up stories and I'll 2 interviews later I'll forget that I even said it, because my mind's great at 42. But yeah, well, maybe through talking we'll kind of figure this all out. But yeah, man, I mean, so this whole thing is, you guys get a chance to listen to Bryon's at all?
Yeah, listen to most of it.
All right,
Yep.
so you kind of get the whole like structure of this thing. It's really just kind of an origin story of the band and how you guys got, how everything came together, what it was like all the years being together, any like fun stories or cool, crazy, whatever stories you want to tell, and then like how the band stopped or all that. So that's like the basic fundamentals of this. But I'm gonna kind of pepper in these questions along the way where they make sense. Amy brought up like 3 of them that seemed interesting, and one of them I am completely confused on what this is. So I'm kind of hoping when I bring it up, you're going to be like, oh fuck yeah.
Well, Amy spent time on the road with us.
Yeah, I think that's like one of them makes sense when she said it. I was like, you must have been on the road with these guys to know this story.
Yeah, she basically hopped a ride from Miami, which is where she lived, out to LA to visit some friends when we were on tour. So she was like, hey, is it cool if I've never been on the road. Is it cool if I just hop in the van with you guys and get out in LA? And we're like, fuck yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, she said something like that in her interview. She was on tour with some band, and then she skipped out of that touring, jumped in with Saves the Day or something.
She did a couple tours with Saves the Day.
And that's how they got in Vagrant.
Yeah. Have you read her book?
I got it. I didn't get a chance to. I haven't gotten around to reading it yet.
It's good. Well, at least for me, like when it was just about to be published, she messaged me and was like, hey, none of these stories are you guys directly, but any of them could have been. And I really fucking want you to read this. So she sent me a copy, and yeah, it's good.
Okay. So now I'm going to have to jump in. Yeah, I gave up. I'm not drinking for like the next like 11 weeks. So I'm trying to find things to do.
Nice.
So I guess reading will be one of them.
I quit that like 2 years ago.
Yeah, man, it's like it was more for like health things. It was like I think I need to kind of chill out a little bit, but goddamn, I'm a week in. I'm like, what the fuck do I do? So
Get shit
bored.
done.
I know. I should have so much energy. I'm just like, ugh. But anyway, enough about me.
Well, I think my problem is I'm really good at doing shit while I'm drinking. So
Yes, same. I'm more productive, and I'm like listening to this audiobook where this guy's like, drinking is so pointless. You don't get anything done. I'm like, fuck that shit. I get so much done.
Dude, last night I went over my entire motorcycle. I installed the trunk for my trip tomorrow. Like I got tons of shit done last night.
Right?
Hell yeah.
Exactly. Then it's like but then you kind of just go over a line where you start getting less done because you're like, all right, I think I'm about 5 beers more than I should have been into this. This is like getting a little bit bad now.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those too.
Yeah. It's like, oh, mixing bourbon too, and it gets you there faster. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. So you guys all grew up in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to how you both got involved in the scene, and as the way I always put it is, did you get involved in the scene before you started the band, or was the band the reason that you got involved in the scene?
For me, it was way before the band.
Exactly.
I was introduced to punk rock through skateboarding. I got a Black Flag cassette and an Agent Orange cassette, and I just played the hell out of them and couldn't get enough of it and just kept digging deeper. And all of us that skated together kind of got into all that stuff at the same time. And then becoming musicians came later. Oh, well, let's 3-4 years later, it's like, well, when we're not skating, what should we do? Oh, well, let's get instruments and try and learn how to play them and see what happens.
Yeah, and not
that's
only
kind of
that,
how it
it
went
was
for
like
me.
it was like, oh, we can go to see this show and we can go there and skate. Awesome.
Was Bryon skating with you guys too?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
That's how you guys all met, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, well, Bryon and I and his brother Eric all went to school together. So we'd known each other since like elementary school. something like that. And I think like probably about like sometime in middle school is when we all started skating, and then kind of discovered punk rock because like that's kind of what the skaters we looked up to were listening to. And we're like, oh, we got to check out this band. We got to check out that band. And just kind of it grew on us. And we're like, wow, this is different. This is awesome. I fucking love it.
So how did the band form then? Like, how did it move from skating to getting mixtapes and punk bands and then saying like, hey, let's start a fucking band?
I think for me, I mean, we played in a number of bands together prior to Gray AM. You know, Bryon
cutting our teeth on really horrible bands.
Yeah,
as we all did,
and then got better over time. You know, like Bryon from Mid Carson and Murray and I were in a band called Deckard together.
Yes, that's right.
I was actually the original drummer for Mid Carson. Murray, you had moved away, right?
Yeah, I moved to Syracuse for a little bit.
Right, and then Murray moved back, and I was kind of getting more into like the indie stuff and kind of like the DC Discord Records kind of stuff. And the Mid Carson guys kind of wanted to become more like straight up punk. And it just, you know, we kind of just weren't looking to go the same direction anymore. And I'd heard some shit that Murray was writing and really dug it. And I was like, dude, let's do that. Like, let's do something a little more like, you know, a little more indie, a little more like math rocky kind of stuff. And we recruited a couple friends of ours that we had heard play, and that's kind of how it started.
Murray, were you like, tell me about like your whole leading up to that point of like writing songs. Were you always like, how did that start?
Well, I started playing bass in Deckard, and it was really good for me time wise, because the other guitarist in Deckard was like a human metronome. So if I was ever off, he was always like right there to call me out. And I was young, so I was like 19 when I was playing bass doing that. That kind of cut my teeth in there for the playing. And then that was kind of in the middle area there as well, where we were starting to like learn about all this math rock stuff and all these like Discord bands. And we would go up to State College and hang out with the Samuel people living up there. They were on Art Monk.
They were on Art Monk Construction.
Well, it was like that whole, I don't know if you caught much of it down in Jersey, but you had to have. But it's like all that like Jay Demko, Lincoln, Kerosene 454, like Indian Summer kind of stuff going on. The first time I heard Kerosene 454, I was like just blown away. And
oh yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like, it was one of those bands there's a lot of bands that we met over the years that were musician bands. The bands that the musicians see at the show and they're like, holy crap, you guys are amazing. People who aren't musicians are just kind of like, I don't get it.
Kerosene 44. I feel like I've never heard of this band.
Oh, you got to check out Kerosene 454, man.
Oh, yeah, 454. Okay, I'm putting 454.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. That's probably what's not coming up. All right.
But those guys, they started out in California and then ended up in Silver Springs, Maryland. And like literally would learn like just riffs out of their records, and same with Giant's Chair. And then I started listening. One of my ex-girlfriends was really into Ani DeFranco. She would tune guitars to different chords and then play like that. And in some of our songs in Gray AM, I would tune 3 strings differently than the rest of the guitar and just make up my own chords. It was a lot of fun just messing with the guitar, seeing what you could get out of it, you know.
Have you guys ever done a reunion show?
Yes.
So how much of a bitch is it to figure out that fucking tuning when you're doing that?
Oh, it's quick.
Really?
Yeah, he props to Murray. He remembered it all.
Fuck, dude. That's like the worst thing, because you're sitting there listening to it, you're like, what the fuck did I do to get that sound?
I think the biggest bitch of it was probably from the other band members when he would bring a riff to rehearsal. They'd be like, dude, what the fuck chord is that?
Like, how do I play to that? I don't know.
It's like your finger looks like it's on a G, but I'm hitting a G and that's not working.
Yeah, literally, I have no idea anything about music whatsoever. Todd literally told me what I tuned my strings to, and I was like, oh, that's it. Okay, cool.
You're like, oh, that's how we all get on the same page. Great.
Yeah.
Was there like a certain thing you were looking for when you would tune like a certain like a high, like a pitch or Like I don't know, was something out of it you were trying to get when you were like just tuning it all weird?
Just whatever I could. When I started messing around with the 3 different string tuning, I was looking for a full discord when I moved my finger around on the A string. I was looking for something where I would get like this crazy discord sound, but I wouldn't have to go far. I would just be able to like move around one finger and I'd be like, oh, and then I could tap one finger on the other string and I was just like, oh, okay, that worked. So that's how.
Oh, go ahead.
No, that's just how it ended up.
Yeah, and I remember like Murray and I would be hanging out. He'd be like, dude, check out this new tuning. And he would just hit like one chord and be like, dude, that chord sounds awesome. I'm going to write a song around that chord.
Yeah.
Like, that's how a lot of it started.
So when you guys started playing together, like what was, I don't know, like what like brought it together? Like why did you guys, like what made you guys stay with it from the beginning?
I think we just liked what we were doing. I genuinely loved the guitar parts that Murray wrote and the bass parts that Mike wrote. And I'm playing drums, but I'm also just like enjoying listening to the rest of the band. I think that's what did it for me. Is I think we genuinely just loved hearing what other people were doing in the band. So it was a combination of like, yes, I'm playing, but I'm kind of listening too, and I'm excited that I can be part of what I'm listening to.
And Sullivan was our very first bassist in Graham. He was heavy into music theory. So every now and then, Mike would play something while we were playing, and all of us would be like, oh my God, that's horrible. Don't do that again. and he would be like, no. Using, music theory, he was like, that's in. And it's like, nope, that sounds out, man. And he's like, no, it's not. And he's like, here, I'll show you. And it's like, no, man, no, that's out, dude.
And so led down the road where you guys had many members in the band, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of the other bands in the area hated us because we would just rob their members. Because we would literally look for not the best players, but the players that most fit us. And a lot of times they were playing in other bands. And if they wanted to come play with us and go tour and stuff like that, then cool.
Was that the strategy? You guys are like, they liked your band, but also you're like, hey, you know what? You can also tour with us instead of waiting like 3 years for that band.
Right.
I think that was a bit of the appeal because we were already on the road and doing it. I will say every member that came into Graham, I liked the bands that they played in prior to Graham.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But Graham and Mid Carson were definitely the 2 bands from this area that were getting out on the road regularly.
So Todd, are you still up in Pennsylvania?
I am, yes. I am about 7 miles from where I grew up, actually.
And Murray, you're down in Tampa?
Yep.
So do you see Bryon? You go to his like vegan shop all the time?
Yeah, it's after Graham and moving around and doing this and that or whatever, I ended up down here and I played in New Bruises for a while, playing third guitar, played in New Bruises, playing bass, played in O Pioneers, played in Tiny Empires and all that stuff.
Yeah, you guys definitely all like stuck together at the whole music thing.
Well, the thing is like once you find, so the reason that me and Todd stuck together for so long is because when you find somebody that you could literally start playing, and we did this before where we would just hit record, go into the practice area and just play, and we could literally play for hours and not stop because we would hear the other one changing and we would change and we would do it, and it's like you don't find that often. That's the reason why all of us really kind of played together, because we just melded so good together.
Yeah, and I think Murray and I have had a really, really good like symbiotic relationship when it came to writing music.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a great writer, but feel like I have a good head for arranging.
Exactly.
And Murray was just great at just coming up with parts.
Yep.
And so he'd come up with like a half a dozen parts. And I'd be like, oh, dude, we could transition from that first one into the second one like this. And, that's kind of how we built a lot of the song.
What were you guys listening? It's like, besides Kerosene 454, which I'm going to get murdered from people being like, I can't believe you didn't fucking know that band. All the purists out there are just going to shit on it.
Yeah.
Like, what were, I don't know, like, Todd, as a drummer, like what drummers were you listening to at the time that you're like just
Oh.
kind of being like, I got to be like this person?
Honestly, there's two guys that really stick out for that time period for me, and they're both Discord Records guys. Adam from Shudder to Think and Zach from Jawbox. I mean that self-titled Jawbox record on Atlantic is just, the drumming on that is like, you're just listening to it going, who the fuck thinks to write that part to that guitar riff? Like, it was so creative. It was so like out there, but totally worked. And so that kind of really like stuck with me. And then Shudder to Think Pony Express record, the groove on that of the drums is just amazing. Like, that is still one of my favorite records from start to finish. And I think as far as what influenced me a lot in playing in Graham, it was a lot of that kind of stuff as far as like the scene goes, but it was also, just kind of some of the normal great drummers that every drummer likes. John Bonham and a little bit of Keith Moon.
So you liked a lot of crazies, like you liked just like a lot going on, not a lot going on where it was too much going into like the recipe, but it was just enough, but a little bit of chaos going on.
Yeah, definitely. And I for the most part, like, I didn't try and be those drummers, but I tried to throw a little bit of that in there for flavor. I was much more a pocket drummer than any of those guys, but it was like, oh, you know what? I can throw some toms into that straight beat, or I can throw a little offbeat here that you wouldn't normally think of. It influenced a lot of what I played, but I didn't necessarily sound like it outright.
There was another drummer that Todd also really dug that I was like, really? And then I listened to him and I'm like, holy crap. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right.
Who was that?
The drummer from Dave Matthews Band.
Oh, yeah. Carter Buford. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I was just like...
Yeah, that cat had it going on, man.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, when I, like, listened to his, like, just hanging out, just playing drums solo by himself, I was just like, wow. That's amazing.
Also, I gotta throw some love out to the later Kerosene stuff with Darren on drums.
Oh, yeah.
Darren Zentak, unbelievable.
Okay, now I have to go back and look
that guy was a pillar as far as drums go. Watching that guy play drums was like one of the most fun things, because he would literally wear the same outfit every show, and it would be like a white T-shirt and like
athletic shorts,
the Umbros.
Yeah, yeah. That's right.
No shoes on, just socks, and a pair of those like ear things, like when you
like
go to
use
shoot
it,
guns.
like ear protection, like the headphones.
Yeah, ear protection. Yeah.
And then he would just sit down at the drum kit and just kill it for the entire set, like
like a lumberjack.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so you guys get together, you start stealing band members. Wait, that was later on.
That sounds like shittier than it was. Like,
yeah, you can say it now jokingly. 20 years ago, people would be like, I can't believe they fucking said that. Now it's like, 2 decades, man. Fucking relax.
Well, and the people that we grew up with in Pennsylvania, like that was the other reason that we stayed together for so long. Also, is because the people around us in Pennsylvania were the best. Like. Yeah. Literally, bands would come through there and play shows, and they were like, we'd see other bands in California or like Oregon or somewhere in Utah, and they would be like, "Oh man, we went through Pennsylvania, and that's where you guys are from. This town we played in." And we were like, "Yeah," and they were like, "That was the best show on tour." And it's like, yeah, because everybody's great there. Like everybody has fun. Like it's not like pretentious, weird. Like it was heckling. Heckling was the big thing when you came through our area. Like, if you came through our area and you expected people not to heckle you while you play, that's not going to happen.
Oh, that's always the best.
Yep, I loved it.
And I'm joking. Yeah. I fucking hated that.
I heckled Promise Ring.
No, but I mean, it was
oh yeah, Promise Ring.
Spirited heckling though. It was
fun.
A band would like play this awesome song and just kill it for the entire 3.5 minutes, and then finish and be ready, getting ready for the next song, and someone would just be like, "What else you got?" Like, just kind of like subtle, like smart ass kind of shit like that. Like,
so all right, so you guys start playing, and how quickly did it take you guys to kind of build like a following in like your area?
I feel like it happened relatively quickly, but I think people already knew us. They knew Murray and I from Decker. They knew that I was in Mid Carson. there was a local band called Three Came Home that had built like a little bit of a following, and our original other guitar player Butch was in that band. So as musicians, we were reasonably well known within the scene because we'd been at it for like a number of years. And so when we all kind of got together, it was like, oh, well, hey, these guys have a new band. Like, let's go check it out. And it picked up steam pretty quickly.
I feel like sometimes that could work against you because people want to hear the other band, but especially if the band got some popularity and then that splits and you go up a new band, people are like, ugh, they're gonna come in with like a little bit of hesitation to accept it. But not in this case.
No, I don't think that was the case. I think it was because we were all kind of coming from different bands, and people were kind of curious, like, okay, well, how are these people going to fit together, because the bands they're coming from don't sound like each other. So I think there was a curiosity there of like morbid curiosity of like, all right, this is either going to be really cool or this is really going to fucking suck, but I want to see it. Like, so I think that helped us a lot.
So how quickly after you guys got together did you record? Because the first thing you guys recorded was the split with Mid Carson, right?
We had a demo prior to that. So we shared a rehearsal area with Mid Carson, and I actually had an 8-track studio there. So we did a demo in my studio, which is actually the only recording that Sullivan, our original bass player, played on. And then the split with Mid Carson came about. It was like less than a year, right, Murr?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Less than a year.
What label was that on? It was on DeCapo. I have like Discogs open so I can check.
Yeah, that was Charles.
DeCapo.
Yeah, DeCapo El Fine, which was a label. It was actually owned by Charles, who took over drums in Mid Carson when I left.
It seemed like the two of you basically were the ones who ran the band because you were the only original. And everyone I talked to and asked questions are like, "Oh, who you talking to?" I was like, "Oh, Todd and Murray." Like, "Oh, they're the only original guys." So obviously, that's carried through the years. The two of you kind of know that in the beginning that it was going to be the two of you, and then other members were going to kind of come and go, or did that just happen over the years?
I don't think we had any inkling that was going to happen, because I really feel like the first, that split and the first album, I mean, everything that we wrote was 100% collaborative. Like,
exactly.
If you were the bass player at the time, you had as much input as the two of us did.
Yep.
As to how the songs ended up. He and I were I think Murray and I were the two people that really wanted to kind of do it and really see how far we could go with it. I don't feel like anybody really left the band for musical reasons.
Was there ever just like a kind of just a butting heads or something like that? Or like what was the typical reason?
I feel like there's quite a number of people who just like, you get out on the road and it kind of sucks sometimes, and you're like, wow, this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So we had a couple people leave because they were just like, dude, I'm not into touring as much as you guys want to go. I don't feel like there was any big like personality issues really. I mean, you butt heads on tour from time to time just because you do. You're stuck in a van with 4 other dudes. Like, shit's going to hit the fan every now and then. But
yeah.
But I don't feel like we ever had it. I don't feel like anyone ever really left, like on bad terms. I think.
But then also, every single record that we put out sounded different than every record we put out. Like, right. it wasn't like we had one sound. It was like, well, we started here, we went here, and then we ended here.
Did you like that? Like, did you like how it would kind of go over the place? Or?
Like, it was all different. It was never just like one sound. That's what was great about having new members.
Oh, okay. So you dug it then?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that shows, if you look at the lineup on each record, that's why they sound different, because I don't know that we had I don't think we had 2 consecutive records with the same lineup. And the songs on each record were written by the band members at the time. So, there was, when we got a new guitar player, that was going to change the sound of what the guitars were doing, because he's going to look at things differently than the previous one. Like,
yep.
Well, you guys were on, so basically, I mean, if a split doesn't mean you're on a label, that just the label typically just puts it out. Like, they don't sign you, they just do that. So then, but then you're with Matches, was that like actually no, Move the Monuments East, that's the first full length you guys put out, right?
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how to structure this, because I want to like lead up into that and talk about Fiddler Records. But then I'm thinking, if you guys go from that, and then you the next record is on Law of Inertia, and then the last one's on One Day Savior Recordings. I mean, you got to think, if a label's coming to sign you, they're expecting some kind of sound. So when they put the record out, were they ever just like, what the fuck?
I think most of our label, most of the labels we work with, it kind of came pretty organically, and a lot of times it was them seeing us live, and just knowing that we were spending time on the road.
I mean, it's more of a guess. It's like
if you like, I mean, when Ross from Law of Inertia saw us live, we were playing some stuff off Move the Monuments, but we were playing some new stuff too that obviously sounded different than Move the Monument. I don't think he had an expectation of Move the Monuments Part 2. So I think that happened pretty organically. I don't feel like we ever sent a record to a label after it was done being recorded, and they were like, "What the hell's this?" Like, they always seem to be pretty stoked with what we sent them.
So let's start off with like you guys going on tour. So you're playing locally. You're getting some, you're following. Because things are picking up. And then how soon after you guys got together did you start touring?
Our first tour, I think, was 7-8 months after we got together. It was only like about a week. We got out pretty quickly. Like basically once we had enough songs that we felt were down to hit the road, we did.
We grew up in central Pennsylvania.
Get the fuck out of here.
When you grow up in central Pennsylvania in the middle of nowhere, you're like, let's go on tour. Let's get out of here.
Where was the first tour to, and how long was it?
It was just down the East Coast and back up. I want to say it was about a week. I don't think we got further south than South Carolina. Does that sound right, Murr?
Yeah, that sounds right.
So it was like Baltimore, some North Carolina dates, some South Carolina dates, and back home.
That first tour is like the best fucking one. I mean, not the best one, but it's in its own place. It's like, because the moment you leave your state, you're like, oh my God, we're in a van. We're going to go play fucking shows. This is amazing. We're just going to like, just keep, it's the coolest fucking feeling ever. I don't know. I loved it.
Yeah, we actually got to, I think we played like the very first Gainesville Fest it wasn't the fest, it was Gainesville Fest, and we played out at the lodge or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I think that was like among the first few like tours and stuff like that.
And it was fun for us because like PA was well represented there, like because we played, Mid Carson played, Jazz June played, and we all knew each other. We'd all like played a ton of shows together.
Shiloh and Newfound Glory and Hot Water.
Yep.
Jesus Christ. Did you guys kind of realize that when you're playing? Because what is Fest? Fest is all on one main street in Gainesville, right?
It is now.
Well, now it is. Yeah.
At that point, it was like at this like lodge kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It was like a dirt parking lot, and I don't even remember the name of the place, to be honest. But it was not in town.
I got tickets to go this year, so I'm pretty stoked. It's the first time I'm ever gonna go.
Yeah, Gordon's playing too.
Who?
Gordon Withers. He's from our hometown. He's the cellist that plays Jawbreaker songs.
Oh yeah. Someone was telling me about him the other day.
Yeah, and he does a band with Jay Robbins from Jawbox too. He lives in DC now.
All right, so like, what led up to you guys getting signed to Fiddler? How'd that happen? Actually, no, fuck that. Before that, I gotta ask you about the Fire thing, because it seemed like Fire was part of your stage show.
I'm trying to think how that got started. I think it was because we were just like, we loved just being just straight up being a rock band. And it's like, well, what do rock bands do? And it's like, well, rock bands have, a spectacle, and it's like, hey,
right.
It's like, let's blow fire. It's like, we loved that whole like carny weird thing anyway. So it's like,
yeah,
blow fire.
Something theatrical.
So so there was a bunch of things because Rob from Cyrus Supercade, he said, ask him about the fireworks going off of your guitars.
Oh God! All right, I got to tell this story.
All right.
Because it was Murray's idea. So I remember we were in Colorado. Was it Colorado Springs?
Yep, it was the High Life House.
Yeah, High Life House doing a basement show on tour, and we always bought fireworks when we were on the road because in PA at that point in time you couldn't, like, they were illegal here. So when we get to south of the border, we're like, fireworks, we're loading up, let's go.
Yep.
And so we had a bunch of fireworks in the van, and Murray decides that night that at the end of our set, in addition to blowing fire, we're going to tape bottle rockets to the amps and light them.
Oh my God.
Right? So, which we're like, dude, are you sure about this? And I think I kind of objected, and I just wasn't going to win the argument, so I finally gave up. And so we get to the end of our set. I'm lighting my cymbals on fire. Eddie's blowing fire, and Murray lights off these bottle rockets, and we're in this like basement of a house playing this show, right?
Oh my God.
These things go off. They fill the entire fucking room with smoke in like 4 seconds.
And there was a strobe light going off.
And yeah, you couldn't breathe for anything. Literally everyone who was watching the show just ran out, like, because they couldn't breathe. And so we get done with the song in this smoke-filled room with literally no one in it.
And the funniest thing, it was this, like, in, northern houses, it was coming through the registers and vents in the house. Just like smoke coming out of the registers in the house.
That was
great.
That was one of our ideas that didn't quite work out as well as we hoped it would.
And the gunpowder actually almost didn't work out good.
That almost didn't work out either.
I almost got my face blown off with that one.
Wait, talk about that.
So we decided that we wanted to expand the fire aspect of our show.
Obviously, as you should after you fill a room with smoke and
we
fireworks.
built these towers that were probably, I'm going to say, what, like 6-8 inches high?
Yeah, they were coffee cans.
Yeah. No, they were PVC.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so we took I think inch and a half PVC, basically attached it to a 12-inch by 12-inch piece of wood so it was upright. And then we would fill it with gunpowder, and we had 2 small holes at the bottom. We would put a small filament of wire through it, which sent a bunch of electricity through a wire, and it gets red hot, and it'll ignite whatever it comes in contact with. Then we would fill it with gunpowder. Because there's no combustion there, it's not going to outright explode. It's just going to burn really fast. And so we had these extension cords that we found that had like this foot on-off switch.
The ones you use to turn your Christmas lights on and off.
Yeah, like you step on them, they got a switch in the middle of the cord. And so at the end of the set, we would connect these cords to a thin piece of wire through the towers, and you'd step on them. They would make the wire glow, which would ignite the gunpowder and shoot flames about 6 feet in the air. And our other guitar player was in charge of setting it off and did it one time when Murray was like borderline right over top of it.
Oh yeah.
I just remember seeing the fire like shoot up and Murray's head whipped back towards me, and I was just like, oh my God, he just fucking burned his face off. Like, it was just like, wow.
It's like a young James Hetfield.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, our stage show was not necessarily the safest all the time.
Did you guys like let fucking people know about this shit before you started, or like the sound guy? Or?
We actually had after like so many tours of doing this, we actually would get to a show, like a venue, and they would be like, "Hey man, you guys Graham? Yeah, come here, let's talk."
Yeah. And I think there was only ever one place that said we couldn't do it.
Miami.
No, West Palm.
West Palm, yeah.
Yeah, Ray's Downtown Blues Bar.
Yep.
And we were like, oh, come on, man. And the reason was the best. He was like, dudes, Reverend Horton Heat was here 3 nights ago and lit my ceiling on fire. I'm sorry, it's not happening. Okay, well, that's legit, I guess.
Yeah, that whole entire story was great when he was telling us about.
Oh my God, yeah.
What brought this up, because I was looking for any kind of info out there about you guys. And by the way, your Facebook page needs a little bit of love. Just gonna throw that out there. It's like,
oh geez,
it's like a picture of your van and then just you guys playing a show.
Well, and here's the biggest thing that I've found is like there aren't pictures of us.
There's nothing out there, man.
I know, and it's not like we don't have them either. Like scoured high and low to try and find pictures of Graham, and there just aren't any.
Well, I was looking for I went on YouTube. YouTube's always a really good source because there's always some random person who has video footage. So there's a video of you guys playing. Where is this? And
yeah, there's a handful.
There's actually a couple of them on there, yeah.
But it starts off with you lighting your cymbals on fire.
Oh yeah, that's from Wilkes-Barre.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right. Yeah,
Mhm.
the Cafe
Cafe Metropolis.
Cafe Metropolis. Yeah, that yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh shit, this because it starts off with that. I was like, oh, that's gonna be something to talk about. Like that seems like fucking pussy compared to all the other shit that you guys were doing.
Yeah, it kind of was. If I remember right, that lineup was new at that point in time.
Yeah, that was like 2001 or 2002, I think it was.
So yeah, that was the
Video.
lineup that yeah, that lineup had not really been together very long. I think we'd only done like a couple shows together. So we didn't really have the whole stage thing down yet.
Oh man, I wish because I only got through a little bit of the video. That'd be awesome if later on it shows like all of this shit happening. But that'd be great if you guys had that documented somewhere on video, just blowing shit up.
I have so a friend of mine, it's not a video, but a friend of mine back in the day caught the perfect photo of my cymbals, like as I'm hitting them, just ballooning flames everywhere.
Oh yeah, that was good. I remember.
And he
that
got
one.
it blown up and framed and gave it to me as a wedding gift.
Oh, dude, you have to take a picture and send it to me. I'll have to
Yeah,
post
dude,
that.
I can totally send you that.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll post that up next week when you guys when this or 2 weeks from now when this comes out. Oh, that'd be fucking sick. Okay,
yeah,
so
I'll send that your way as soon as we're done here.
all right, cool. So before we get into the whole Fiddler thing, now the vampire teeth, people brought this up. That was like a big merch thing of yours, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then Bryon, he said talk about you guys had him done on like women's underwear or something.
Yeah, we did. We
With
were always looking for what new merch we could do.
Uh-huh.
And there was like a local screen printing shop that did all our shirts and stuff, and they were great to work with, and the prices were really, really good. And so somebody brought up the idea of like doing thongs. And, we were kind of like, well, if we can get a half a dozen and see if they sell, why the hell not? So we approached the screen printing shop, and they were like, well, we don't have a supplier for thongs, but if you bring them in, we'll print them for you. So we literally like went to Walmart and found a bunch of cotton thongs that were like $2 a piece or something like that and bought them and took them in and, printed them and then headed out for that tour. And within like a week, they were gone.
Yeah.
Like, if even. We were like,
we also did white tube socks.
yes, we did. Yep.
I was to say like that's like the hottest outfit a girl can buy.
Dude, they sold like crazy. It was nuts.
My friend Kyle, who worked at Fuel by Ramen, he's still got a pair of the socks.
Oh, amazing. What was the vampire teeth? What was that whole thing about?
We just kind of wanted something that was like almost like a logo, and we thought it was cool. I don't think it had any like really like deep-seated meaning.
Like no like connection to a song or anything like that?
No, huh?
No. And I think that was your idea, right, Murray?
I don't know. I have no idea how we came up with that one.
That was your attempt to be like all goth from like before.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, that was
Well,
exactly.
also, I absolutely hated them at first, but then absolutely loved them. Rock from the Crypt had a lot of like you ever listen to them?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like those guys were the pinnacle of stage show. Like when it came down to like same costumes, same everything. They have an old poster with all of them wearing vampire teeth, and they have their eyes blacked out and everything. And I don't know if like that's where I thought, you know what, fangs, like the old like those like wax fangs that you could get and put in your mouth. That's where it started. It started from something like that, and then it went to the fangs that we had. And Andy drew those up, I think.
Yeah.
See, it's those little details that people are gonna be like, that's how they fucking started that. Those little things.
And then Andy tattooed them on my wrist.
Oh, no shit.
And they are tattooed on my shoulder.
Oh,
Yep.
So more photos you guys going to send me. So how did this all lead up to you guys getting on Fiddler? Had you done like a shit ton of tours by this time, or?
We'd done a handful of them. We had a really good friend named Mike Blair that did a zine called Nothing Left. He was from around Wilkes-Barre, and Mike just really dug what we were doing. And Mike had become friends with Amy from Fiddler, and basically just sent her a demo. It was like, you got to check these guys out. You should sign them. I think the first time we met her, we were in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We were going through Florida like a little while after that. And And she came out and saw us, and afterwards was like, hey, let's talk. I think I want to do something with you guys. And that's kind of how it came to be. So.
This was right before, this is about 2 albums before Dashboard comes out.
Right. And the record before us on Fiddler was Newfound Glory.
The Sticks and Stones.
Yeah. And actually our first
No.
after...
It's all about the girls. Sticks and Stones came
All
way
about
later.
the girls?
Yeah, that was like their 4th album, I think, after self-titled. Yeah.
And actually the first after Move the Monuments came out, that first tour, we actually went out on the road. Amy asked us if we'd be willing to do a tour with a band called The Agency that she had just signed.
Unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah, which was actually Mike, who went on to do Dashboard Confessional with Chris. He was their drummer. So that was our first tour after we had a relationship with Fiddler, was with them. They were phenomenal.
Did you guys kind of get that sense that, I mean, being signed to Fiddler, like at that point, it's like I just talked to Alistair. I did an interview with them, and they were like one of the first bands to get signed to Drive Thru. So it was like right before Drive Thru became Drive Thru, and then it becomes Drive Thru, and it kind of helped them. He's like, yeah, like, you know, talking to Tim, and he's like, yeah, that shit like definitely helped us. We kind of rode that wave a little bit. So you guys getting on Fiddler at that time, I mean, this is right before it becomes like fucking Fiddler. So, you know, it's like, did you guys kind of have like any kind of inkling when you got signed that something was kind of happening with that label?
I mean, I don't think that we thought it was going to turn into what it did. We just knew that like pretty much every band that we heard of the recent stuff that she'd done was really good. So we thought it had potential to do that, but we were also just excited that like someone wants to put out a record, and a friend that we trust had recommended. So I don't think that we knew Fiddler was going to turn into what Fiddler did, but we knew Amy had a good head on her shoulders, and she was doing things right, and she was easy to work with. And so I don't think any of us were surprised, but I don't think we expected it.
So is that what sold you guys on getting the label? What sold you on? Just the fact that she had her shit together, or you're just kind of like, cool, yeah, you like our band, great. Was there any expectations that you guys were looking for besides that when you got signed?
I think we were just looking to be able to get out more and play more and have more opportunities like on the road. And, a lot of the bands on that label were definitely doing that. And so we just saw it as a good chance, and Amy definitely, when we met her, she definitely, we got the impression like, okay, yeah, she has her shit together and she's easy to get along with. And yeah, I think this could be really, really fun.
It's not every day you actually run into somebody in the scene that actually like has their shit together that well. You're just like,
right.
You just like, when you first meet Amy, you're just like, you look at her room and you're like, holy crap. Like everything's just like super organized. And it's like, man, this person really knows what they're doing. Plus she's great. Like she was like super, super fun to hang out with. The first thing I remember about Amy is her like wide collection of Les and Jake squirt pistols.
Oh, right. That's right.
She was like, look at my collection.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, she was great. She was awesome.
Did you guys, like, at this point as a band, did you think we just want to do this? We just want to do this. Was there anything else kind of getting in the way, like college or jobs or girlfriends or any shit like that? That was, like a barrier. I think that's pretty much my question. Like, was there anything getting in your way of you guys wanting to move forward to just be doing the band full time and just living that life?
No, at that point we just wanted to play and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were all kind of working like easy to find service jobs, like delivering pizza or restaurants or like whatever. So
warehouse.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was like, oh, well, I can't get 3 weeks off to go tour. Okay, well, I'll find a different job when I get back. We didn't exactly have a career path other than potentially the band at that point. So yeah, there was really nothing stopping us.
So when you got on the label, like what benefit did you get out of it?
I think, well, the first benefit was we had money to record, which we would not have been able to afford on our own. But then also just kind of like networking and, getting to know other bands and other bands from outside the area, getting to know Florida bands that are like, oh, dude, when you come through, you should play here. We'll play with you, get a good crowd. Like, and then even kind of like trading back and forth with other bands. Oh, dude, there's this rad place in Arkansas. You got to try and get a show next time you go through. So I think that was really, really helpful when we were kind of starting to tour more expansively.
Yeah, like, I mean, it was good as far as like distribution and all of that. It was great as far as like getting our name further out there. Like that's what was great with like Amy, because like she had a longer reach.
When did she go on tour with you? Was it like right around that time, or was it like a couple years later?
No, it was shortly after Move the Monuments came out. I think it was the first tour that we had the record to sell. And we left PA, and our tour route basically took us down the coast to Miami, through Florida, then across the southern U.S. to L.A., and then to the Pacific Northwest, and kind of back through the northern U.S. She just like she had nothing stopping her and wanted to visit some friends in L.A. and was like, well, I could take a flight, but I think it'd be kind of fun to see what it's like on the road. So if it's cool with you guys, can I just hop in the van for a week? And we were like, yeah, sure, why not? Like, and I think it was really fun for all of us, honestly.
Okay, so this is bringing up the two things that she said to me. So first of all, what's Ipecac?
Oh God.
Oh, that was that tour?
Syrup, yeah, yeah. So syrup of Ipecac, have you ever heard of it?
Mm-mm.
So it's a kind of an old remedy that, you know, like if a kid ate something that they shouldn't, you give them syrup of Ipecac and it forces them to throw up. Like it just causes this reaction in your stomach that makes you throw up. And so there's a story behind that. And one of the places that we hit for food when we were on the road, especially in the southern U.S., was there was a chain called Cece's Pizza.
Oh, yeah.
And it was $3.99, all the pizza you could eat. We got into Austin, Texas, and that was one of those towns we tried to get into early because, like, you could get there at 2:00 in the afternoon and just walk around downtown, and there's like music going on and there's fun stuff to see. And so we got into, I think we'd driven through the night to get there, or else we'd played a show like nearby. And so we got into town like around lunch, a little after lunch, and we decided, oh, dude, there's a Cece's. Like, let's hit that before we go downtown. And then we can just load up on food and we won't have to eat anymore today. We can save a couple bucks. So our guitar player at the time, Eddie, had a bottomless pit of a stomach and just decided he was going to try and eat for like a day plus while we were at Cece's Pizza and really get his money out. And I think was the final count 42 slices, Murray?
Yep, it was definitely above 40.
Oh my
yeah. So
but these are like this. These are small slices though, right?
Like,
They're
small slices. Yeah.
Okay.
But 42 that's no joke.
Yeah, dude. That's
right.
Jesus.
So you know, and we've all been done eating for like a half an hour, and he's still sitting there, like, you know. And so finally, we're like, "Dude, are you done?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm good, dude. I can't eat anymore." So we go out, we get in the van, and it was like in this kind of like strip mall in the suburbs of Austin. We're headed towards the exit of the strip mall, and we're not even to the street yet. And Eddie's like, "Cross the street, dude. I got to go to Target." And we're like, "What do you need from Target?" He's like, "Dude, I got to get some Ipecac, man. I feel so shitty right now. I just got to throw up. Like, it's the only way that this is going to get better."
Oh my God.
So we drive over to Target. He goes in, he gets the Ipecac, and then we leave from there. And he's just like, "Oh," like the whole way to downtown. We get to downtown. We park, you know, like a block or two from Emo's, which is where we were playing that night. And we're like, well, let's go walk around and see what's going on. And Eddie's like, "Dude, I'm going to take some Ipecac and just hang here at the van until I throw up. And, you know, then I'll either take a nap or I'll catch up with you guys." So we left. We come back an hour later. He had drank like pretty much like at least half the bottle, which normally you need about a teaspoon.
Oh my God.
So. He had drank about about half the bottle. And he had so much food in his stomach that it wasn't enough to cause a reaction to throw up. It just made him feel even shittier. So now he's just like, "Oh my God, I feel like death." Oh, like, you know, for like the next like 3 hours.
Oh my God.
And we were just like, "Dude, we told you when you were eating all that pizza that it was a bad idea." Like, so that's why Amy brought up Ipecac, because she was with us at that point in time.
Did he finally fucking puke it up at some point, or?
I don't think he ever did.
Jesus Christ.
I think it eventually just settled in, and he got through the show that night. I don't know how, but
see, I've asked so many bands at the end of their interviews, like, do you have any random stories that you want to tell? And there was like, no, it's just like stupid shit that we did. Like, this is what bands did. It was just like random shit like this that it's some people were like, all right, but they're expecting this like Motley Crue like kind of fucking story. But like, this is the shit that you would just go through when you're on the road, and it was a fucking blast. You're like,
oh my god, we have a million of them. It's because out of anything, none of us were ever afraid to not be. We weren't concerned about doing stupid shit because like we all did it. We're all fine laughing about it after the fact too. So it was just like, yeah, that's something fucking dumb that we did. Like, and it seemed to happen a lot with us.
It's all life lessons, man.
Yeah.
You got to learn them.
Was there anything like dangerous that you did where you're kind of like, that was a close call?
I feel like there had to be. Well, I think you almost burning your face off, Murray, was.
Yeah, that wasn't a good one.
Because that stage show was not safe.
No.
If we're being honest.
We never did that again. That was
that was the end of that.
Yeah, that was the only time we ever did that.
No, I don't think so. We blew fire in New Orleans one time and caught some girl's hair on fire.
Oh my god.
That was bad. That was bad.
Wait,
that was also because we had, so when you're blowing fire on tour, it kind of gets expensive when you're just like buying 151 all the time, because 151 was not cheap. And after a little bit, we were like, well, we can just buy Everclear. And Everclear is way more flammable than 151.
But surprisingly doesn't look as cool.
No, not as much. But I think that was like when we switched over to Everclear, because I remember
we only did that like one or two shows, and we were like, this is a horrible idea. We should go back to 151.
Yeah.
But then the result is that we have like a damn near full fifth of Everclear, and we're like, well, we might as well drink it because we have it. Like,
that was a really weird night in New Orleans.
Yeah, it was.
Drinking the Everclear.
Oh my god.
Now, in fairness, the girl had a lot of product in her hair, so I don't. It was partially us, but it was yeah.
Did it like her hair just go, her full head go up, or like a portion?
No, it was just like a sizzling kind of like, and then like someone immediately like starts kind of hitting her in the head, like, and it was just like, and we were just like, oh my god, like, thank God, like her hair didn't go up like that, like,
yeah,
holy shit.
Well, we took more precautions from there on in.
Yeah. It goes back to what Murray said a couple minutes ago. Life lessons. Like,
yep. You got to learn them,
Yeah.
Yeah, she really wanted to learn that lesson that night.
Don't go to Graham's show and staying close to the fire.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god. So this kind of like leads into the, I don't know, it kind of leads to the next one. So Amy also, the last one she said, talk about watching porn with the Locust in San Diego.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh god.
So there out of all the places, it was the Locust and Jenny Piccolo, and then us, and who else was there? Who did we stay with, Todd?
Dude, it was with Amy's friend. I don't remember.
And was that one after I got the sunburn, or was that another tour?
That was a different tour.
Okay. But yeah, like literally there was college students who took a 70s porno and turned it into a 3D event. Basically, it was like just some crappy movie theater or whatever. They were playing this like 3D porno there. You come in, you get your glasses, you go sit down, and it was like, what was the main phrase? It was like there was
the main character was hairy balls.
Yep.
and the person would always respond, hairy balls who? And then the other person would say, anyone he can. And I just remember, yeah, we had like, we were in San Diego, and we had like, we were playing in like LA like the next day or something like that, and just had some time to kill. And the Locust and Jenny Piccolo were like, hey dude, we're going to this like theater to see this 3D porn. Like, you guys got nothing to do, you should come with us. And we're like, all right. Like,
what the fuck were they like, the Locust?
They were, I remember them being pretty chill, honestly.
All super nice people.
Yeah, they were really, really nice.
It's not like a lot of times back in the day, rarely did we ever run into anybody who didn't want to be friendly.
Yeah.
Like most of the bands back then, especially like back in the no cell phone days, everybody was just nice, good people, you know?
Yeah, I guess I was kind of thinking some bands would be a little bit. I mean, every band I think I ever met was always really nice. But sometimes you'd think, because the Locust is so weird that you'd think they'd be like a little bit kind of like, you feel like if you got in a drunk conversation or a high conversation with them, they would just go off into like super left fields, and you'd be like, where are you taking me right now?
No, we had a blast, man. It was great. It was awesome.
So at this point, this is like 99, and I talked to a lot of bands like this where you're getting over that hump. Things start to transition a little bit, and the whole late 90s scene is starting to kind of break apart, and the whole fashion core shit starts to kind of come into play. Like, did you guys notice that, and like how were you dealing with that at that point?
I will definitely say that we noticed other bands doing it. I don't think it ever really kind of changed what we were doing, or at least not consciously.
Shows changed.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll talk about that. Yeah, talk about how the shows change and how that affected the band.
Shows just like it was weird growing up in central Pennsylvania and having such a amazing group of people to grow up with, having shows, going to shows. And then it started like coming into that weird Hot Topic thing, you know, where like now like Hot Topic has Green Day and Every Time I Die shirts in there and all this stuff. And it's like, it was odd that punk rock growing up was the very first memory of going to punk rock shows for me was when you go to punk rock shows, that was a place for us to go to where we could actually fit in because we didn't fit in anywhere else. Then all of a sudden it was like this mainstream thing where dudes in boat shoes were showing up to the shows, and I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? I was like, fucking penny loafers over here, fucking coming to see fucking, and it's like, it just got weird, you know, when like the whole transition started like coming through. It was definitely weird, but we were also growing up as human beings as well, you know, like we're getting older, you know, like at that point we were in our late 20s. We're just like trying to like figure out like what life was for us. It was a strange thing for that to be happening at that point as well.
Were the crowds still, did they start to kind of not really accept you guys at that point, or was that not an issue?
I feel like I'm not going to say it was an issue overall, but I feel like that's where the scene started, like, kind of, from my perspective, splintering into cliques a little bit more. Early on, like, early Graham and prior to that, like, other bands that we played in, it's like, you showed up and there was, like, a punk hardcore show. Half the bands you were playing with were probably playing, like, super heavy hardcore, and then some band was playing pop punk, and then there was you guys, and that was just kind of how it was. And I feel like once that kind of, like Murray said, that Hot Topic stuff kind of hit, then I felt like you had more, it started to splinter into like, well, this is a hardcore show, or this is an emo show, or this is a punk show. The subgenres didn't intermingle anymore, which was kind of weird, because that was something that I always dug, because, you know, we weren't playing hardcore, but I love listening to it, so it was cool to play with a hardcore band. And then all of a sudden we're playing with bands that are only in the very genre that we're in. And so, you know, I kind of missed that a little bit.
Yeah, it really did just become, a show was just 4 to 6 hours of the same sound. It completely got away from being a ska band to a hardcore band to a punk band.
Oh man, those days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Some of my favorite shows were ska shows.
Oh yeah, dude. Our first out of town show was near Altoona, Pennsylvania, in this abandoned barn with a ska band from Detroit, and they were awesome.
Ska bands were fun as fuck. I mean, the live show, I got out of it really quickly listening to it in my car. Less Than Jake was pretty much the only ska band I really would listen to, because they went back and forth between like punk and ska, and it was just, I don't know, they were like fucking Less Than Jake.
Accessible.
Totally. And I couldn't listen to ska when I was driving, or just, you know, I wouldn't say my Walkman or Discman or whatever the fuck it was. It's the shows are great. Like Real Big Fish, their live show was fucking ridiculous. I remember seeing that with Goldfinger. And
Oh yeah, dude,
so
Goldfinger was fun as fuck live too.
Goldfinger's
Yeah,
great. That first
love
album,
that
man.
band.
I still love that first album. That album is
Yeah.
fucking great. Actually, it's funny talking about like just talking about the scene stuff. There was someone I just interviewed recently, and they're like, "We're done." He's like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "You said you grew up in the Jersey scene." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I fucking hated the Jersey scene." And it was like, "Go on." He goes, "They were such pretentious dicks." I go, no. That was the early 2000s Jersey scene.
Yeah.
The late
Yeah.
90s Jersey scene was awesome. I was like, that's why the premise of this podcast starts there. It was like the 2001 and on became, he's like, yeah, everything was like all hairspray and fucking like turtlenecks and all this shit. And I was like, yeah, that scene sucked. I was like, that was the fucking, so that's like the scene we're talking about. Like, that's when everything started to change and everyone showed up and it was just how tight could your fucking pants be, and
Oh yeah, I
Right.
remember that.
yeah, that's just what it became, and that's why it just blew. And I was like, no. The earlier Jersey scene was great. The later one's like, yeah, that's why it just kind of fell apart. He's like, oh, okay. So he's like, I didn't want to say
Yeah.
that. I was like, yeah, I get it.
I think we met the Thursday guys at a basement show in Jersey.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All they had was like this like burnt CD or whatever. And I don't have that anymore. God, I don't know where that went. But yeah, it was like those guys were just like starting out. And Jersey shows, basement shows were just as good as our hometown shows, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
they were
yeah.
super fun.
Oh yeah, they were fucking awesome. And then it just started getting crap. So why didn't you guys record your next album on Fiddler?
I mean, we hadn't really had like any kind of like long-term deal, and Ross at Law of Inertia really wanted to work with us, and you know, I don't think we went back to Amy and said, hey, well, you know, Ross wants to work with it. You know, I mean, it was kind of understood that like we weren't beholden to her and she wasn't beholden to us. So Ross offered us a deal that we were happy with as far as like, you know, scenario, and we just did it.
And that was playing a show at one of my favorite places to see ska shows. There was a place in Ithaca called The Haunt.
Yeah.
And I lived in Syracuse for almost a year, and we would go down to Ithaca every once in a while on a weekend to go see ska show or something like that. Because ska shows were so much fun. It's just a bunch of kids dancing. It's like, and that's all it was. It was like no punches thrown, no like hardcore show stuff like that. You know, it's like just a bunch of dancing kids. It was so much fun.
Actually, the haunt does still exist, but it's at a different location now, and it's not the fire trap that it was when it was downtown.
Oh God.
It was an awesome club, but it was like, if anybody lights a match in the wrong place here, this place is going up.
Yeah, did Lane Meyer ever play The Haunt?
I don't know, man. We don't think we played a lot of Central PA shows.
Well, no, this is Ithaca, New York.
Oh, Ithaca, New York. I don't think there was. I don't remember. I don't believe so. I think we would usually go to Massachusetts, and the only thing we really played in New York would be Binghamton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys play there a lot?
Not a lot, but we played there a few times.
Did you ever play in the skate park with the basement with all the shows were downstairs underneath the skate park?
No.
Space. Oh
Wow.
man. Yeah, it was crazy. You take this freight elevator down. So it was cool
What?
because it's cool because you could actually fit all your shit, but it was this weird setup, but it was always so much fucking fun playing there.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Heck
Yeah.
Yeah, like we'd play there with iFarm. Do you remember iFarm? Do you guys remember those band?
I don't remember
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, they were from Ithaca. So actually that's made me think about that. But yeah, we never went up there and played there.
What was it? What was the strangest place you ever played? Was that the strangest?
We played, actually, Robbie Cade was telling me that you guys, I think when you guys were on tour, you played in Denton, Texas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you play that Slaughterhouse?
Oh, was that the Crackhead?
No, that was Dallas.
Okay.
Crackhead was Dallas.
Wait, what's
Okay.
this? What?
Good Lord.
What was that?
So I honestly don't remember where we played in Denton.
Yeah, it was like an old slaughterhouse. Like not like the walls had any blood on or anything like that, but it was just a slaughterhouse that became a place they put shows on. It was all cleaned up and there was no animals or anything like that. But that wasn't that was weird, but I just remember just the fact we played in the slaughterhouse was just kind of like, oh, that's just odd.
We played a boxing ring.
Yes, that's right.
Fuck.
We played a boxing ring in Bakersfield, California.
Yep.
Oh, Bakersfield. Did you guys play Jerry's Pizza in the basement there?
No.
No, huh?
No, just the boxing place.
Yeah, just the boxing place.
I am gonna bring this back and ask you about this crackhead thing. Trying to throw me off here, but you played.
I got that story queued up because it's a good one.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, don't worry, we're not gonna let that one go. So all the listeners, we're gonna circle back around. Wait, so you stood in the middle of a boxing ring? Like, do you have like a 360 thing going on, like Def Leppard?
No, we tried to set up in the boxing ring, but we couldn't set everything in the boxing ring because the boxing ring bounces and everything was flying everywhere.
Oh, like it's right. Yeah. Oh, that sucked. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
I remember the local band that we played with, like, incorporated this pro wrestling thing to their set.
Oh,
so these people are like jumping off ropes and shit while they're playing. Like, it was insane.
That's fucking cool. Yeah, we played Jerry's Pizza. I think that's the name of it. It's in Bakersfield. Bakersfield, that's the town like Korn's from, right? It's like the shit town in California.
Yeah, it's middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I've heard of Jerry's Pizza. We've never played there though.
Yeah, we played there on our last tour, but apparently before Weezer came out with the Green album and everyone was like, oh, Weezer come back, and now that Weezer's back, it's like, oh, please stop playing. Stop recording albums. Like, this is when Pinkerton is a year or so after Pinkerton, or a couple years after Pinkerton was done, and Weezer was kind of popping up here and there, I think playing some underground shows or something. And apparently, I think when we played there a couple weeks prior or a month prior, like someone said that Weezer had played. And this is all like 20 years ago. I could be completely fucking wrong, but I do remember someone mentioning like they had played there, like
That's awesome.
randomly under like a different name because they were using different names and shit. And I was like, that's fucking dope.
Yeah, like Cursive did.
Did Cursive do that?
Yeah, Cursive did a bunch of shows where they played under a different name.
Like recently or?
No, this is back in probably 2004 or 5, something like that, or 3 like or something like that. Like, yeah, well, I saw them in Wilkes-Barre, and they were called Sergeant Yippee and something, and they were great. They were awesome.
I don't understand why they would need to like hide their name, and I think at that point, I mean,
who knows?
That's weird. It's like you're good and you were big enough, but I mean, you're like fucking Bon Jovi or some shit. Like,
yeah,
right.
Like that's
I
weird.
have no idea why I did it, but we were just like, yeah, Cursive just great.
The thing it sucks, I'm going to jump back into this crackhead thing. The thing it sucks is I saw Cursive play with Jealous Sound in San Diego when I was living out there in 2003. And Jealous Sound opens, and they're awesome. And then Cursive goes on, and I hadn't listened to them, and they start playing, and I was like, this band sucks. So we left, and then years later, a friend of mine burned me a bunch of their records, and I was like, fuck.
Oh, yeah.
God damn it.
I've done that with so many bands. It isn't funny, man.
Oh,
I'm just
fuck
like,
yeah.
I'll hate it on a band forever, and then all of a sudden I'll be like, you guys are great.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, you have like to completely change your tune and be like, look, I've talked so much shit about you for so long. Not like you meet them and say this to them, but you think out loud, or you talk to your friend, you're like, oh yeah, I fucking hated this band, and now they're fantastic. So, crackhead story. What the fuck is this about?
Okay.
This better be a good goddamn story. If I keep coming back, you're like, it was just like whatever.
We call it the crackhead story, but it's not quite what it. So, I'll get into it. We were on tour in Texas, and we played emos in Austin, and had nowhere to stay, and didn't have a whole lot of money. So it was like, well, we really shouldn't swing a hotel room. We really, and sleeping in the van kind of sucks because it was like summer and it was really fucking hot. And so we called ahead to this place we were playing in Dallas called Moon Tunes. And we're like, hey, we're Graham. We're playing there tomorrow night. If we drive up from Austin, is there anywhere that we could crash? And they were like, oh yeah, sure. Like, yeah, come on up. Like, so we're like, okay. So we drove up. It was like 3-4 hours, something like that. And it's this old warehouse, like in this industrial area of Dallas, that a bunch of punk rock kids have like basically framed out bedrooms right inside like what would have been like the foyer of it. And then the warehouse areas where they have the shows. Right. And so we get there and, like bang on the door. It's like 2 a.m. or whatever. This dude kind of opens the door and just goes, "What?" And we're like, hey, we're Gray Am. Like, we called ahead and you guys said we could crash here. And he's like, "Oh, okay." And he like looks around out, like sticks his head out the door and looks around. He's like, "Do you guys have equipment in your van?" We're like, "Yeah." He's like, "You should probably bring it inside." We're like, "Okay." So we load all our shit into there. And like, by the time we get done unloading the van, this dude's nowhere to be found. He's like back in his room or whatever. And just like, it's just the 5 of us sitting there just like, all right, well, I guess we'll just sit here. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Right. We're having like a couple drinks and just chilling out. And this dude comes out and like gets something out of the fridge and he's just looking at us all weird and then like walks away. And we're like, okay, well, this is really fucking uncomfortable. So then eventually one of his roommates shows up and he's super nice. And he's the dude that we actually talked to. And so he's like, "Oh, hey guys, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, like the warehouse area is through that door and that's where the show's going to be. But there's like couches all around the outside. Like you guys are welcome to, sleep on any of them, blah, blah, blah," which like not the best place we've ever slept at all. But we were thankful to have a place to sleep. And it's raining and the warehouse leaks. So we're like moving the couches away from where the water's dripping so that we can sleep without getting dripped on and all this stuff. And so we're finally getting settled in and we finally lay down to call it a night. And we hear this like ruckus, like people screaming at each other and blah, 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 blah. And hear this door slam and these tires like squeal. And we're like, what the fuck just happened? And then the dude that talked to us came in. He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, sorry about you had to hear that, man. Like my roommate's kind of on a coke binge right now. But he just took off. So he should be gone for the night. Everything should be cool. And we're like, okay. So we lay down, fell asleep for maybe like an hour, and we get woken up by this ruckus again. It turns out the dude left, wrecked his car, gets a ride back to the place with the drummer from Tripping Daisy.
Oh, wow.
And it's like now 4 a.m. and they decide they're going to jam. So we're trying to sleep in this warehouse room. The drummer from Tripping Daisy's playing the drums, and this other dude plays saxophone, right? So there's this drum and sax jam session going on at 4:30 in by these 2 dudes that are like coked out of their minds. Like, and we're just like, how does this, how? Like, what the fuck is going on here? And they were all like, "Oh, yo, you guys want to jam? You want to jam?" And I think I actually got out of bed at some point and was like, well, I can't sleep, so I'm going to play drums for 5 minutes. Like, why the hell not? And then eventually, I think around like 6 or 7 in the morning, they finally like called it a night and stopped playing, and we actually got to sleep and woke up the next day. We're just like, dude, like, let's play this show and just get the fuck out of here. Like,
all right, that was totally worth it. He plays the fucking saxophone.
Yeah.
Some of the times on tour, you're just how did this happen?
I mean, that's like the weirdest shit, man. Yeah, you think you don't even. It's like you kind of just go through it thinking, we gotta get to the show. This is all you're thinking about is that, and then the afterwards of where you're gonna sleep, it just becomes secondary. And then when you show up at these situations, you're like, how the fuck did we get here?
Oh, when we were on the way, so us and Mid Carson were on a tour and we were playing. It was like out. I don't remember where we camped at, but it was out west somewhere on the west coast.
Oh, it was in Arizona.
Was it Arizona?
We're on our way to Utah.
So we're Charles, who plays drum in the other band. He's like, oh, well, let's just, camp out. Like, let's, and we did this a lot on tour, going camp out. But when we went to the store, we got everything en route to go to the area that we finally found to camp out at. And it was hilarious because you just you can't even make this shit up. On the way, there was a thing on the radio that said, and it was a real thing. And they were like, oh, there's an escaped convict.
No. We found that out after the fact.
Oh, did we find that out?
Yeah. We were. And so I will mention these weren't like campgrounds. These were like, oh, there's a state forest and a road. Let's find somewhere where we can tuck the van in and sleep.
Yeah, we found a shale pit.
And I remember we were driving out through there, and somebody saw some random.
Oh yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah,
there was some Charles Manson looking wacko on the side of the road thumbing a ride at like, whatever it was, like 1 a.m. or midnight or something like that. And then we find out the next day that there was an escaped convict or whatever out and about, like that murdered like 7 people.
Oh my god!
They thought he was in the forest that we slept in.
Yeah. And we were out walking around the woods at night. We were just like, we just got drunk beyond belief out there.
Oh yeah, we had like a couple cases of beer.
Charles had his like big gallon jugs of wine.
Yeah, that's right.
Because Charles was fancy.
Yeah.
That's fucking amazing.
Like that night in itself was stories beyond belief.
Was the crackhead one or the coke guy who was basically the saxophone from Lost Boys? That's all I keep imagining. I just keep thinking of that guy.
Oh, good lord!
I believe. Was that the tour that Amy was on with you guys?
No. Yeah, that was the tour. I think the tour before.
What was like the best tour you guys did? Like, what was like the biggest show or like the best tour? Like, it could be both.
I think biggest show was probably Hellfest in Syracuse.
Oh shit!
Like the 3rd or 4th year. Probably like 1,500 to 2,000 people, something like that.
Are you guys on that DVD?
I don't think so. Which year is it from?
Man, I just remember I bought the one. I thought it was 2003.
No. Okay. No, we were not.
Wait, let me double check.
I don't think so. Anyway.
Volume. Let's see. I'm looking at it through Google right now. This is from. It was like Further Seems Forever played with Jason, and One Line Drawing played. I mean, like, I guess, yeah, One Line Drawing was on, and you guys did a split with them, so it made me kind of think, like, maybe.
Yeah, but I feel like that was. I don't think we played Hellfest that.
Okay, this was like
we
huge.
played like 3 out of the first 4 years, and then that was it.
And yeah, those were huge fucking shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we drove back from California to play it when they asked us if we wanted to play.
Oh wow.
We were literally in Bakersfield, California, playing that boxing ring, and they were like, "Hey man, spot opened up on Hellfest. You guys want to come?" And we're like, "We're in California, man." And then we drove back.
Like,
wow.
It was like 3 or 4 days later, like that it was actually happening.
Yep.
Holy fuck! Was it worth it for that drive? Because that drive sucks.
I mean,
I feel like it was day, it was night.
Oh god.
I feel like we only had I feel like we had just had a show or two fall through, anyway. So we actually had the time to do it, and weren't kind of really sure what we were going to do from Bakersfield anyway. So we're like, well, we might as well just drive home and do this.
Just go straight across the fucking country. Holy Christ.
I think we did like about 6-hour driving shifts, and we just rotated nonstop like until we got home.
Oh my god.
Yep.
But what about like best tour or biggest tour?
Biggest tour was probably Digger and Unsung Zeros, as far as like crowd size.
What year was that? 2000?
That was 01, 02, something like that.
I feel like Digger wasn't really drawing that much around that time.
Well, they were doing okay in the Northeast, but we had Unsung Zeros along for the Southern dates, and they were drawing really good in the South. I think most fun tour was probably with Billy Music from South Dakota. Although there were some other really fun ones, but
yeah, because like all the agency tour.
Oh yeah, agency tour was great.
Yep, Third Harmonic Distortion.
Yeah,
from Baltimore. I
think the Billy Music one sticks out to me because of how bad we messed with them.
Talk about that.
When we were on the road, we were pretty much like, hey, let's have some beers and play music. And we had like a rotating like designated driver schedule. So like 4 out of 5 nights you could drink as much as you wanted, and it didn't really matter or whatever. And Billy Music guys were not really drinkers. They were kind of more just like stoner dudes. And so what we would do, their roadie, Mikey J, when they would go on stage and play, we would start feeding him alcohol and get him like really drunk. And because when he got drunk, he got loud. So by the end of the night, Mikey J's like yelling and just doing all this crazy shit. And the rest of the dudes are like, dude, please just calm down. He's like, oh no, fuck you guys. And so this went on for like a week straight. And they would come up to us and they'd be like, seriously, please don't get our roadie drunk tonight. Please do not get our roadie drunk tonight. And we just kept doing it. It was funny.
So when Rob told me that you guys lit the fireworks off of your guitar, and then you were saying how you bought fireworks when you were driving, like I don't know if that triggered him, because when we went on tour with Saturday Super K, which talked to him in his interview, like they did that and they pulled up, they started shooting fireworks at our van from their van on the road.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm wondering if like Rob got that from hearing stories of you guys. And actually, no, at that point, I think you guys were touring at that point when he stayed with you. But did you guys do that shit on the road too to other bands?
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hell
Yeah, if you got fireworks, like
Yeah.
one of my favorite, and this has nothing to do with us, but it was like I went on tour, like I had week off or something like that or whatever, and Mid Carson was doing some shows northeast or whatever, and one of the shows was with Bane and Piebald, because Travis was playing for Bane at that point because somebody couldn't make it for the shows or whatever. We were cruising down the road in the tour van, and up ahead, Bane had an SUV, like a Pathfinder. We were going down this country road, and all of a sudden, like two of the guys were on the sides of the SUV with Roman candles, shooting them off from the sides of the SUV, and I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, hell yeah. And then they drove into a field, and the guys are still they're still holding on to the side of the SUV, shooting off the fireworks. So I'm like, oh, what the shit? That was fucking great. I was just like, I love these guys. These guys are great.
Holy fuck.
I don't even know. I know it was one of the Bane guys, and then it might have been like one of the Piebald guys or something. But I was just like, holy hell, that's awesome.
And then they just drove off into a field.
Yeah, the fact that they drove into the field, I was like, he's got guys on the side, like they were standing on the rudder boards and like holding onto the roof rack, shooting off the fireworks. And I'm like, yep, love these guys.
That was like the best part, man. You just like, you wouldn't know it. You'd get on tour with these fucking wild cards sometimes, and then sometimes they'd be like super chill, and you had gotten off another tour. You're like, oh, cool, maybe they want to get fucked with, and then they're like super relaxed. You're like, and then you start scaring them because you want to do all this shit. And they're like, hey guys, can you like calm down?
The only time that ever happened where people really started whining was we were on tour with Mid Carson, and we would I mean, if you tour with other bands, you know, like you're gonna get some shit on your windshield every now and then, you know.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, metaphorically and not literally, but like we would throw like, you know, eggs at other bands' van, and then like, you know, sometimes it was peanut butter, sometimes it was something else. Mid Carson, Eric opened up a can of beets and threw them at our van. And literally the beets went in the window and went all over everything everybody owned. So it was like stained pillowcases, you know,
no.
Shirts were stained, and it was just like, oh, Eric.
Jesus.
Eric, one step too far, man. One step too far.
Oh man, that totally beats it. Like that's this same thing with Rob. The only band we really fuck with Saturday Super Kid, and they kept fuck with us so bad where they like Rob threw barbecue sauce and it landed in our guitar player's eye when he was driving.
Oh, God.
He was like blinded when he was driving on the highway. And then we got back because then my drummer was driving. He took a big gulp and just launched it across the highway into their van that was next to us, and it like landed on Rob and just splashed all over their shit. Their fucking van. It was so great. All right, so I'm gonna get close to wrapping this up because I don't want to take up all you guys' time, even though this is fucking great. So you guys do all right. So Move the Mountains, and then East, and then you do Breathe on Your Own Time. Actually, no. Then you end with Breathe on Your Own Time after doing the split with Mid Carson and Juliana Theory and One Line Drawing, which were separate splits. So like you guys go through all that. You do all these years of touring. Like what finally led to you guys just being like, all right, we're done.
I think just at least for me, it was just not feeling like it was like feasible to keep going at the way we were going. We got looked at by a lot of bigger labels, and it was always the same story. You guys sound awesome. We love what you're doing, but you don't sound like anything that's selling right now. You don't sound like what's cool. And so I think after a while, we were just kind of like, okay, we're going to, if we keep doing this, we could maybe pull an At the Drive-In in 5 years down the road, just be on the road so much that we beat ourselves into people's brains. Or we could just decide that, like, you know what, like, maybe we kind of want to do something else. We made a conscious decision to stop touring before we stopped as a band. So we still played for a while afterwards. It was just like, look, we're not gonna, we're not gonna try and spend half the year on the road anymore. Yeah. But if we still want to play, that's cool. But then eventually, different opportunities, jobs, or other bands or whatever, kind of took people elsewhere in the country, and we just weren't all here anymore. So I think that was really, really it. I think if we got to the point where we could have at least come home for like 2 or 3 weeks and not have had to worry about like finding a job to go back out, I think we would have probably continued to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was just like, come home, get a job for like 3 weeks, and then leave again and have to quit the job after 3 weeks. And it just, after a while, it got old. It's just like, look, I love playing music and I love doing this, but the level we're doing at, it's not sustainable for where it's getting us.
Did you have any labels come to you and say, besides the whole, you got to sound like this, did they give you a whole speech on how you got to look?
I don't think we ever really got that, but we already kind of did that to a point.
Yeah, I was looking at the 3 pictures you guys have online, and it looks like you were kind of like not like dressing the part, but it looks like you could fit in at that point.
What we wore 90% of the time anyway was like a plain t-shirt and a pair of jeans. We had a consistent enough look. We didn't look like, why are these 4 people together? So I think we look consistent enough that I don't think a label ever said anything to us about that.
Yeah, because someone I was talking to Dynamite Boy, and they were saying like Fearless brought him in a room and kind of have a conversation with them about. I heard like Fearless kind of had a conversation with some of their bands about that whole outfit thing, like the fashion thing. And so it's funny because I've interviewed bands and labels, and I've gotten to both sides of it, and I can understand. It's interesting when you hear both sides of the story. I didn't interview Fearless, but like from a label's perspective, when they're dumping all this money in, I can see where they started being like, okay, shit, now things are streaming, so that's scary.
Oh, I'm sure Bryon said something to you about Fuel by Ramen.
I don't know if he said
those guys.
I think this is like 15 interviews ago with him, but I don't know if he said something with them. I know he was talking about him being a label and the shit that he put up with bands.
Oh yeah.
Wait, what was the Fuel by Ramen thing? What did they say?
Oh no, just like I think those guys played some dates with Les and Jake, and just like how they acted and presented themselves. And Bryan's brother Eric, he definitely would not let anybody tell him how to do anything. So
right,
yeah. So I think there was like some heads button in there or whatever.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean at that time I can understand where it just was. I could see from a label's perspective when they are dumping money in and just getting kind of freaked out about all, like, again, the streaming thing and being like, okay, shit, we got to make sure we're signing bands. It must have been a weird thing for them to be like, okay, we got to throw out our ethics here.
Yeah, exactly.
Go towards where the dollar is going to go. But fuck, I don't want to say this to these guys.
Yeah, for labels, it's kind of like herding cats, like they're just like, they have all these like different personalities and they're trying to like create something where they can have some sort of cohesion,
Yeah, it sucked from growing up in a scene where that wasn't a thing, and then it basically became the thing that we were all pretty much going against when we joined the scene.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's where we also like it started to not be as much fun doing shows because it was like that. It was so much fun, like when we started doing it, and then like because things were changing, it wasn't as much fun anymore. or it was like a different type of fun that we weren't used to yet. We were just like, yeah, it's definitely not as much fun.
Looking back, do you think that you had another record in you and you could have probably toured for a couple more years and actually made it fun again?
Oh,
I think we if we kept going, I think we would have had another record in us. I definitely
easily,
do.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have gotten back to being fun or not. That's that's hard to say. I mean, it would have depended what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, if we put out another record and it took off and able to stay on the road most of the year and like make at least enough to survive the times we were home, then probably I think it would have been fun. I never, for me at least, it was never not fun playing. It was all the other crap that went with it.
Well, just like Bryon did for Mid Carson, Todd was our glue, and Todd really took care of a lot of everything. So it was a lot of like Todd having to deal with that all the time was probably not so much fun having to take care of everything all the time.
Yeah, that's got to burn you out even more because you're like, fuck, now I got to see the business side of this shit too.
Yeah. I was definitely like that side of it, which like anyone who knows me knows that if I'm the responsible one, the bar's pretty low. At least at that point in time. But it was, I just kind of had this attitude like, well, fucking nobody else is going to do this and it has to be done. So I might as well just suck it up and do it.
Yeah, that's a shit fucking job. That's a shit job to have when you're in the band.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Cause
was that you and Lane Meyer?
No, fuck that shit. Fuck that shit. No, we threw that on Sean, our drummer. Sean is 5 years older than us. So when he joined the band, he was 24 and we were 18 and he was 23. And he was like a manager of Hot Topic, speaking of Hot Topic. And yeah, he just took it on. So we lucked out in that point, but just the amount of pressure on him for that shit. I mean, and our singer Chris would just give him shit all the fucking time. So the two of them hated each other back then. Now they're fine, but like back then, I mean, they were just like Sean. There were so many times I'd like talk Sean down from like wanting to like kill Chris.
Yeah.
Like see, yep. we had a really tense what's the word? Our whole dynamic was super tense as a band. But this is why like I love talking to bands who got to tour a lot and got these big shows, is because this is what we always wanted to get to. And then also really just bands having a really good time together. I'm always like, I'm so jealous because we didn't always hate each other, and there was good times, but a lot of times it was just huge blow ups. So when I talk to bands that didn't always have that, it's kind of like it seems so foreign to me, basically.
Yeah, we found that it was, if the shit was going to hit the fan, it was going to be between 2 and 3 weeks into the tour.
Who did that usually go between, though? Was it between you two, or because you guys were?
I would say honestly, it was never really Murray and I. I mean, it was never us at each other. But I would say that like a chunk of our previous members left because of like just not having fun on the road. Because Murray and I like had this, after a couple of years, you get this you get your routine of like, okay, well, I need to be serious about this, but I can also have fun over here. And you find out like kind of where that line is for you. And some people, it was like too much. Some people, they thought it was going to be a huge party and it wasn't, so I think the perception of what it was going to be like on the road for someone coming into the band, when it didn't match up with what was actually the reality, that was frustrating to people. How do you deal with that stress? How do you deal with like, shows getting canceled? How do you deal with not having a place to sleep? How do you, all that stupid shit that like is just how it is. It happens, and some people are equipped to deal with that. And people find their groove to deal with it. And some people just don't.
Oh, that shit breaks you, man. I mean,
yeah. And so that was kind of where a lot of the blow-ups came.
Yeah.
We watched other bands that we would take on tour with us, like lose it, and it's just like, you just got to learn how to roll with it, or else you're just going to not have fun and it's just going to wear you down.
Yeah, but I feel like every blow up we had came between the 2 and the 3 week mark on tours.
Yeah.
If we were going to have one. If you made it to 3 weeks, you were golden for the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, even 3 weeks is a long time. So what's like the longest you guys would go out?
The later years, we were really trying to go out for at least 8 weeks every time we went.
Yeah. Tours where you would spend like a week and a half in Texas because it was so huge.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the thing that you found, it's like if after you hit the 3-week mark, it was all just a huge haze anyway. Like, so it didn't matter if it was 4 weeks or 7 or 8. Like, it all just it all just felt like this, like you wake up in the morning some days and you just feel kind of cobwebby. You don't feel like crappy, but you just have like a kind of hazy eyes and it's hard to get going because maybe you didn't get enough sleep or whatever. From like the 3-week mark on, that's pretty much how the rest of the tour always felt to me.
Yep.
Like, Murray and I have been having conversations about like, oh yeah, you remember that dude at that fucking show in Texas and blah, blah, blah. And then like 2 minutes into discussing whatever we're talking about, we're like, wait, no, that was in Oregon. That wasn't in. It all just kind of bleeds together.
Oh yeah, when you're inside a club, you couldn't even know where the fuck you are.
Right.
Yeah. Or even like when you pull up to it, because back then, I mean, now with phones and everything, you can kind of scope the area out a little bit more and walk around and just, pull up pictures and shit. I don't know. You can kind of learn it a bit more, I think. Back then, I mean, you'd pull up to a venue and you'd kind of be like, all right, we got either a couple hours or like a whole day until we fucking play. But don't go too far in case you get lost. So it's like you didn't really get to map out the area. Or sometimes the club would be in like the shit fucking part of town. And all you had was a van, so you couldn't just take it and just go up the road and drive around because that's where your equipment was and all that shit. So you're like, you just walk around and be like, I don't really want to walk around too far because this seems like kind of sketch. And that's all you'd fucking see. It's just a building and then a parking lot. And you're like, oh, where the fuck are we?
Yeah, that's why you always have my relationships during those times. It was like the other person in the relationship with me would always be like, oh, you guys are always having fun and you guys are like going around the country. And it's like, yeah, it's not that much fun all the time. It's like long drives, hot van, sweaty people, No, it's not all party time.
The picture I have up right now is when you guys are playing and it's the two of you in this huge crowd in front of you. I mean, that's where you live for that 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever time you got. And that's where you get that spark again and that carries you through to the next day and overnight. And you're like, oh my God, it's such a high. So that's the thing that keeps you going each day. So but those long drives, you're also hoping that you're going to have another show like that. So you're kind of picturing in your brain, okay, well, we know we played here before, so it was awesome last time, so it's going to be that this time. And then sometimes you show up and you're like, fuck, there's like not that many people here, and now I'm going to be fucking bummed out. So it was just this constant fucking up and down.
And you utterly and always pray that the club you're playing has doors on the stalls.
Oh, the bathroom. Yeah.
Yep.
Because the launch pad in Albuquerque didn't have doors on the stalls. That sucked so hard.
I think that was the thing I did in the last tour. Is like I always would find the worst bathroom to take a shit in. Because it would be like, this is the best, this is the grossest place, and I've just took a fucking dump in this fucking disgusting ass place. But it would, yeah, if they didn't have any doors on it, I'd be like, oh hell no, there's no way.
I have one.
That would happen to us on tour, but it was never intentional. It was like, well, this is all I got. So
yeah,
I have one horrible bathroom story that was like, it was just hilarious. I was just like, wow, that just happened.
Go on.
It was the PCH club in LA.
Oh, I remember that place.
And the bathroom was like, the drywall was ripped off the walls in some spots, and like it was just graffitied all to hell. And it was just disgusting. And there was no helping it. I was going in there. And but I like while I was like on the throne, I was just sitting there and I'm like, all of a sudden, I look down and a rat just like runs across my feet, and I'm like,
no.
And I'm just like, oh, so this is how it is, huh? I didn't think it could get any worse, but then just a rat runs across my shoes. I'm like, cool.
Oh my God.
Glamorous life of touring.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you thought it was all great.
Yeah. Go back to what you're like, the person you were with was saying, like, oh, it sounds so much fun. You're like, yeah, until a rat runs across your cons.
Exactly. Good old PCH club.
Fuck.
Oh yeah, man, I haven't thought about that place in years.
Yep.
PCH Club. Where was that, real quick, before I ask you the last couple
It's
questions?
like
PCH Club.
L.A., right off Pacific Coast Highway in L.A., like one neighborhood away from Compton.
Okay, yeah. Did you guys ever play Fade Odo?
I don't think
That was
so.
in Compton. That was an awesome
Yeah.
venue. Yeah, we played there with Newfound Glory. It was like the day or the week before, the week that their self-titled album was releasing on Drive Thru.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, we always
sick
played
show.
in L.A., PCH, Chain Reaction.
Yep.
And what was that kind of art space in Orange County, Murray? Do you remember the name of that?
Not at all.
Uh,
I remember Santa
It wasn't
Barbara.
Shea, that was in San Diego, but it was a similar name, I feel like.
Up in Santa Barbara was the Pickle Patch.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
But like we were doing a majority of our touring like during the days when, you know, Book Your Own Fucking Life was out there. So it was like, because like Book Your Own Fucking Life had like, you know, not only places to play, but also like couches to stay on, you know?
Yeah.
And that was a great thing to have during that time too.
I just think like if we had all the stuff that they have now to just tour with back then, it would have just been so different.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, obviously,
The only thing I'm
but
glad
damn.
for is I think it made everything a lot better. Instead of having to like, you know, jump on a cell phone, you had to find a phone booth. And that was actually like, it gave way to like some pretty cool stories.
Well, you had to earn it, man. You had to totally earn it back then a lot more.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think because of that, you had less bands trying to do it or being
And less
dedicated to doing it.
That's a good point.
So, you know, in some ways, I feel like, you know, if you were calling some dude in Texas asking for a show from Pennsylvania and bugging him repeatedly about it, like he was like, all right, well, these guys are legit. I'll give them a show. Whereas, like, you know, a lot of bands would have like called, not going to call back. Okay, well, fine.
Yeah.
Like, just won't do it. You know, whereas like now with email and the various forms of communication, it's so much easier for bands to try and do it. So I feel like promoters are probably way more flooded now with that kind of stuff than they were back then.
Yeah, we definitely watched like the summer times go from like, we would have like tons of like huge shows when we started out, but then after a little while it got so saturated with tons of bands coming out, and it was just like the promoters are just like, man, we had to do shows like 4 or 5 times a week now. This is crazy.
Wow.
It's like,
Yeah.
how am I gonna get people to come out to like every show? It's not gonna happen.
Exactly. Yeah. If you have it all, if you like, cake's good once in a while, but when you have it every single night, you're like, okay. It's like
Yeah.
Mitch Hedberg thing with like pancakes. You know, it's like they're great, and after a while, you're like, I'm fucking sick of pancakes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's,
Best
Yeah.
comedian.
oh yeah,
Love that guy.
man,
Awesome.
fantastic. All right, so I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna do 2 more questions, and I'm gonna let you guys go on your way. Before I ask the last question, what would you like to plug? It could be about anything you're doing, anything a friend's doing, anything you'd like.
I got nothing.
Yeah, I don't really. I mean, the only thing that I would say is just like, I mean, this is going to sound cheesy, but for anyone listening, just keep supporting music. You know, it's been a hell of a year, like 16 months for a lot of musicians. So
My only thing I plug is love, man. That's it.
yeah,
It's like,
Yeah.
I just like, me and Todd started like, I mean, we ride motorcycles all the time. I rode coast to coast on them, and just riding from like San Francisco back to here, just getting that kind of feel in gave me like a huge perspective changing experience, you know? And it's like, I just look around and I'm like, man, just people just gotta let go of a lot of their weird things that they feel they need to hold on to make them themselves, you know? And it's like, no, you don't. You gotta just let go a little bit. That's my only plug.
Okay. Well, it's kind of maybe slightly leads to the next question. So, last question: what scene ethics do you guys hold on to this day?
oh, to this day, just looking out for other people and encouraging people to be themselves.
And that's a huge thing now too, where, and this is massive for me. And me and Todd and his wife Dina talked about this a little bit when I was just up there. But the whole like PC thing that happened, you know, towards the end of us playing, and then it just expanded and got bigger and bigger, and now these days it's a strange thing with the whole gender thing and everything else. And I just hope the people that are growing up now like are okay with like us fumbling every now and then. That's my big thing with the ethics thing. I think we grew up during a great time in music. Everything was changing then, and now it's changing even more. And I hear a lot of younger people that I work with that also come from the scene and stuff. Sometimes they seem accepting of us trying to change with the times, you know. But it's a hard thing to do. I didn't answer any question, did I? Am I rambling now?
Hey man, your answer's your answer.
But yeah, like I just want people to be accepting, and hey, you know, we're all together in this giant boat, man. We'll just roll with it.